Welcome to Mind Myself. I'm Esther, founder and CEO of Mind Myself, and I love having these conversations with fabulous people about amazing topics. And my guest today, again for our podcast, What's Light Got to Do with It? Rachel Maurice, MD. Welcome, Rachel.
Thanks for having me, Esther.
So glad to have you here again. Tell us a little bit about who you are in case someone hasn't watched any of the other episodes, and just put yourself into a little context for this discussion of what's light got to do with it.
Okay, perfect. So as Esther said, my name is Rachel Maurice, and I worked as an anesthesiologist in Canada for close to 20 years. I left that practice, my clinical practice, in 2021. And so it's been about 3.5 years now that I have not been practicing anesthesia. Since that time, I have been doing a lot of researching, learning, unlearning a lot of what I had learned in my conventional medical teaching or education, because what I learned in there was how to manage disease, how to, I'd say, use medications, obviously as an anesthesiologist, and really look at the body more as a physical entity run by biochemistry. And what I started to learn was it was so much more. We are electromagnetic beings, which we actually understand in modern medicine, because using ECGs and ECGs and EEGs, we measure electrical currents. But even more than that, we are run by light. And that changes everything in terms of my understanding of how the body works and how we can actually help the body flourish and be healthy, as opposed to just stave off, or not. It's not even stave off. It's really manage, or at best delay, progression of disease.
It's like one of the most important topics that we could ever speak about. So, what a great segue into talking today about one of my favorite subjects, LifeWave. Now, you and I are both associated with this organization and thrilled to be doing so. So, I would like to take a little bit of a dive into what it is and some of the details that people ask lots of questions about. So, first off, how did you come to LifeWave? What drew you, and what made you say yes?
Okay, that's a great question. And I think it's actually really important and pertinent based on my training and what I've learned. So because I was sharing that I was doing a lot of unlearning and new research on how the body works, and the upstream signals for everything that happens in the body, all of the functions, all of the processes that take place in the cells, the signals come from light. So that's light outside of us, but there's also light that we produce inside of us, inside of our cells, inside of our mitochondria and our DNA. We produce infrared as well as a type of ultraviolet light. So in all of this learning, I became very excited about different lifestyle changes that we can make. And one of the things I think I mentioned in one of the previous episodes was that my red light panel became one of my best friends, because red light really activates and targets the mitochondria, which is our energy producing factories in our cells. And how we are alive is because we have energy. So I had then, in this community, in this space, started hearing about these patches. I didn't really understand what they were. And initially, just because of where it had come from, I didn't investigate further. I just thought it was some type of red or infrared light, which I hear very commonly from other people before they actually find out how it works. That's what I thought for about a year. And then, just through different circumstances, someone I knew very well, I had seen changes in, and I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I've been using these patches." And I said, "Okay," because I trusted her. I had to do some more investigating, and what I found out just blew my mind. And it was very timely, because the person who introduced me to the patches was, her background was that she was a cardiac surgical nurse for 20 years. And my mom's health started to decline really quickly at that time period. And one of her biggest health challenges is her heart. So what this lady, and her name's Diane Hunt, we've become good friends since, but she started not only telling me stories, she'd been with the company for a year and a half, not only stories, but results of of what we would consider objective investigations, like not just ECGs, but echocardiograms, which measure the function of the heart. And what she was showing me was improvements in heart function like I've not seen in the entire 30 years that I've been in medicine, unless you put some kind of artificial device in someone's heart. But I knew with her background, being in the OR, being in the electrophysiology suite where we have all the rhythm disturbances, I knew what her experience and her understanding of everything was similar to mine. So when she shared that, there was actually no question in my mind that we were going to get my mom started on these. And I didn't want just my mom because I wanted to get some benefits too, right?
Yeah, why not?
And I would consider myself self-healthy. But again, as touched on in some of the other episodes, if anyone has not listened, you might want to go back and listen. When we talk about mitochondria, we can live with up to 70% dysfunctional mitochondria without experiencing symptoms, thinking we're healthy. So although I think I'm healthy, I know there's a lot of wear and tear just by the fact that we live.
Yes.
Always extra things that can be done to help. And so we got started right away. The time frame, I gave my mom 9 months. I said, because that's one of the things which I'm sure we'll get into, the timing of how long to wear these patches. And I told her, be patient. The body takes time to heal. And that's another kind of conditioning we have in society. We're a drive-through society. We want instant result.
Yeah. Take a pill and it'll fix the symptoms. So never mind what's really going on. Yes.
And so I was, prepared to wait and not see results quickly. But within 2 weeks, my mom had gone from having to stop every 2 to 3 steps to catch her breath because of her heart failure to walking with me on an incline, a slight incline, significantly faster and speaking to me at the same time, which requires more effort. That was 2 weeks. And then within 3 weeks, she had to have her thyroid medication lowered by her doctor. And since then, she has started to lose some weight, not just weight, but fat, because it's been noticeable to me, which in the past she's sabotaged for decades. And her spider veins have been disappearing. Her varicose veins are smaller. She had a lot of skin issues before because of some medications as well that she was on. And that's 80% cleared up. She's got more energy. She just looks more vibrant. Hair is growing thicker. So many things are happening.
Amazing story. And so how long has your mom been wearing the patches now?
So now it's been about 9 months.
Right.
9
Would
months.
she stop?
No, she's not stopping.
Right.
She's not stopping. And, I don't know if you want to kind of do it in a particular order, but one of the reasons I will say that I wear them, and I think she understands now, is there is a time frame. So the minimum time you would want to give it a quote unquote try, which to me, that just doesn't even make sense, a try, but is 90 days, because the research that he has done, because this is research, there is, for people who like this, there's the double blind placebo randomized controlled trials out there on these patches. And 97% of people see an effect by 90 days, some kind of effect.
Mm-hmm.
But the recommendation is a month per decade that you've been alive on the planet.
Yeah.
But that's just to get the full reactivation of your stem cells. If you have a goal or a target in mind, you wear them until you reach that target. But for me, and I share this with everybody, from what I have lived and experienced in 30 years in the medical system, I do not ever want to have to go there if I do not have to. So I am all about prevention. So for me, this is a preventative tool. It is very affordable when you look at everything else that's out there, very affordable if you are someone that prioritizes your health.
Yes. Yeah. So much different than an injection. And we'll call them master cells in this context because we are recording. Yeah. The master cells. Okay. And just a quick, this is how they come. There are 30 patches in an envelope, and the patches are this small, and they just stick on your body and you go. So I just wanted to show that. But before we get into more of those details, tell us a little bit about the science behind LifeWave from your perspective as an MD. You've given us a great intro. I love that. So powerful. And your mom has experienced some things, and clearly you're experiencing some things. But let's talk about the science behind it.
The science in terms of how it works, the
Yeah.
science?
Yeah.
Well, okay. So these patches, although they seem very kind of, I was going to say that, yeah. I mean, they seem simple. They seem like a sticker that you put on. How on earth could this sticker actually do anything?
Right. Too good to be true, right?
That's what people say. It's a sticker. But as I said earlier, we produce light, and light is a form, it's information, it signals our body to do specific things. So one thing that I had learned, so we're going to use the term master cells. So when a sperm and an egg come together, they divide and become a zygote, then a fetus, a baby, and we grow. And how we grow is there is cell division from these specific master cells that contain all of the instructions to become every cell in the body. And we retain that ability, but those cells diminish in activity and numbers as we age. So by the time we're 30, those master cells have gone, about 50% have gone dormant. By the time we are 60, about 90% have gone dormant. Now, while we're not still growing beyond like the teenage years visibly, we are still growing with respect to the fact that our cells are constantly being turned over. So we always need to replace cells. And those master cells are what replaces those dead and damaged cells. So as we age, if we lose that ability, then we're just not repairing. And that's where we see a lot of the breakdown with our body.
Hmm.
So these patches, how they work is David Schmidt, who is the inventor, owner, CEO, is absolutely brilliant. And he figured out a way after 10 years of research, $4.5 million, how to reflect specific frequencies of light that we emit back into the body to increase this special copper peptide that we already have. So it's already innate within us, this copper peptide. This also declines with age. So when we increase it, this copper peptide, what it does is it resets over 4,000 genes in our genome to a younger state. One of those genes happens to be the P63 gene, which activates and increases the number of these master cells. So we're basically increasing the activity and number of these master cells. That's one thing. That's only one gene of over 4,000. So the other things are reduction in inflammation, anti-cancer. By the way, this might be a good place to insert. This is for educational purposes and information only. This is not advice or meant to treat, diagnose, cure, or anything like that. So yes, they increase these master cells that then can go and heal parts of the body that have been broken and damaged to repair. And basically, as David Schmidt says, it's anti-aging because it's really bringing us back to a younger state, including, what we see on the outside, which is what most people kind of can tangibly hang their hat on. So like hair, like my hair has been growing like wildfire. Like I got it cut. It normally doesn't grow very much at all. And it was like down to here, and I got it cut literally 3 weeks ago, and it was here. Like it's just crazy. And so we see that, we see skin sort of reduction and wrinkles, and all of that has to do with collagen. And there's a reason I'm saying this, because collagen is so very important. We see it on the outside with hair, skin, and nails, but collagen is the most abundant protein in the body. It is about 70% of the protein in the body, and it makes up it's integral to our fascia, our whole fascial system, which is the cytoskeleton of our body and our cells. Even within the cells, it supports our organs. And one of the other things it does, which many people might not be aware of, is the way that it's structured, collagen. It forms these nanotubules of water in the body. And we talked about water in another episode as well, and how important water is in the body and how different it is. And these nanotubules are basically, they create this quantum water superhighway of communication in the body, which is how light travels in the body. So if we've got this whole water network, how light travels, when we put this patch on, it doesn't matter where it is, or it doesn't matter how small it is. it travels throughout the whole water network in the body, the light. And so it increases that copper peptide everywhere in the body. Sorry, I
No, that's good. I like that.
yeah, if you
So
hadn't texted or wanted me to go in a different
yeah,
direction.
no, that's really great to explain some of the foundations of how it works. And I know that David has also said age reversal. Yes, anti-aging, but actual age reversal with that and the new water machine that's coming, which we're not really going to talk about today, but just seeding the conversation. So that's great. So that's a bit of the science. You could geek out forever on that, being a medical doctor. But so my understanding simply too is that the patches, each one, there are 10 different patches, and each one reflects your own light back at you at a specific frequency. And so it's going to do different things. And there's some overlap with the things that each of the patches does, but each patch has specific functions and specific overall reasons for being.
Right. And I'll just, if you're okay, I'll just share that this specific X39 one is the only one that reactivates the stem cells. And it does a whole bunch of the other things that
Master cells.
master, did I say? Okay. The other patches, because the company is 20 years old, over 20 years old, he created those other patches prior to this X39. So the X39 really is the foundational one. If there is any one to get, that is the one. The other ones are just kind of additional supportive. They do things, but this one is the all-encompassing one.
Yeah, I've heard David say it's like the conductor of all the other patches, and it's the one that really is the generalist. It's a generalist conductor patch that helps everything function better, including all the other patches.
Yes.
Excellent. So how do we use it? This shouldn't be a long explanation.
This is one of the things that I absolutely love, because it's so simple, right? You literally, like I showed, it's like a sticker. You peel off the backing, you stick it on your body, you wear it for 12 hours, you take it off, and you repeat. So it doesn't take any time out of your day. It's not onerous. It doesn't interrupt any, it doesn't require any effort. Literally is less time than brushing your teeth. And after I take it off, because you want to wear it for 12 hours and then have 12 hours off, because just like sunlight, we don't live under sunlight 24 hours a day. It's stimulating. We need to give our body a bit of a rest. So what we do is we take it off, but there's still a little bit of activity left in the patch because it's heat activated. So what I do is I actually wrap it around my dog's collar, and then she gets the benefit of the rest of it when I put it on her the next day. And I say the next day because this particular one you want to wear during the day because it increases energy. I have had people, despite saying that over and over again, still wear it at night. Say to me they've got insomnia or they can't sleep. And I said, when do you take off the patch? And you wear it at night. So that is an important fact. But the other thing, so that's really how you wear it. The studies, you can put it anywhere in the body because again, light travels throughout the entire body. The studies were conducted such that there were 2 spots that David chose, below C7 behind the neck and below the belly button, because when you do studies, you have to have reproducible methods and just that's the way research is conducted. And he chose acupressure points because energy flow is it's like more of a super highway with these acupressure points, but really you can put it anywhere in the body. A lot of people put it wherever they have a spot of pain, or if you've got a scar beside a scar, if you've got a cut beside a cut, if you want it closer to your brain, here behind your, actually have one behind my ear. Yeah.
Exactly. And so what I've learned as well is you wear some patches during the day and some at night, depending on your situation, and 12 hours on, 12 hours off. And I've also heard David say the common wisdom, you can wear up to 6 patches at a time, but there's no requirement to do that. And but that's kind of like the guideline. And another thing that I love about this in using it, you don't have to charge it, you don't have to lay under it, you don't have to light it, you don't have to plug it in, none of those things. You just put it on your body, and you go. But the key, from my understanding, is consistency. If you don't wear it every day for a significant amount of time, okay, if you miss a day, it's fine. But if you don't wear it consistently, you're not going to experience the results in the way that you're looking for. Would you agree?
Yes. Yes. And the other things that are important, two things I stress for people is you must be hydrated. Now, I know we've talked about hydration, and real cellular hydration comes from us producing it in the mitochondria, but we still have to drink water. So
Mm.
we have to drink water with electrolytes. And because when we just drink water, we can actually pee most of that out. The electrolytes help keep the water in the body, as well as they surround this was interesting, I learned from David Schmidt recently, the meridians, the energy meridians in the body, which is how the energy travels, has actually been shown to be these really small collagen fibrils that are surrounded by electrolytes. And that's how infrared light moves. So you need the electrolytes for these patches to work. I've heard many stories of people who are very involved and high up in the company, whose maybe family members or spouses or someone just, is not consistent, not drinking the water, not seeing changes. And then they get them drinking the water with electrolytes, and then suddenly they start to see the changes.
Awesome. And electrolytes, what does that actually mean? Do you go out and buy electrolytes, or?
So what I do and what I recommend, but again, you have to go with what what people are willing to do. So for example, I've got children in my household who do not like putting salt in their water. So if I'm going to get them to drink electrolytes, I'm getting some of the powders just to get them in. But for me, I like the clean sources of electrolytes. So unrefined salts. So which means unrefined means it still has all of the minerals attached. The table salt, the refined stuff, is just sodium and chloride. That's not what you want. You want unrefined. So something like Himalayan, Redmond's real salt, Celtic sea salt, and you put that in your water.
How much?
It's tolerable, right? It really can be a pinch or two. I mean, I get it. So I can kind of just taste the salt, but really it doesn't have to be, you don't have to load it up with salt.
Great. So just a pinch or two. We should all be able to do that.
Yes.
That's pretty easy. Which leads me into the next thing. I've heard a number of people lately say, oh, it just doesn't work for me. The technology doesn't work for me. How would you respond to that?
Okay. I want to say one more thing before we get to that, if that's okay.
Okay, sure.
The other thing that I tell people is, because especially the X39 works through a copper peptide in the body. A peptide is a combination of amino acids, and this one is 3 amino acids: glycine, histidine, and lysine. So it's important that we have those substances in our body, as well as copper, to be able to make that copper peptide. Otherwise, it won't work. So that it kind of leads into that. But what I share with people is to search out copper-rich foods. I don't usually recommend the supplements unless people they're just not getting copper in their diet, but we're getting a lot less copper in our diet than we ever used to. In the early 1900s, we got 4 to 6 milligrams a day in our diet without trying. Now, most people don't even get 1 milligram in their diet. So,
And what are copper rich foods?
so they're really the one that everyone loves: organ meats. Just kidding. Organ meats, oysters, seafood, shellfish, avocados, nuts and seeds. So cashews in particular for nuts, but doesn't mean go eat a whole bag of cashews. Sunflower seeds, and then probably everyone's favorite, a little square of dark chocolate has enough copper for the day.
Interesting. Okay. So supplement the patches with water that's got minerals in it in some form or another, and copper rich foods. Really important. So if people aren't seeing results, that's a first place to start. Okay, got it. But what can people expect, and timing? You referred to it earlier.
Yes.
Let's talk about that for a bit.
So it's a good question. And again, it's a question I get all the time too, because everyone is different. Everyone's body is different. We come with a different set of genetic instructions. We're on the planet for a different number of years. We are all living in different environments, have different toxic loads. So our bodies are all at different stages of needing repair and regeneration in different parts of our body. And so everybody's body functions differently and is going to prioritize different things as to where those repairs need to take place first. So, although one may start the patches and say, "Oh, I want to help with my eyesight," because some people have no longer need their reading glasses or prescription glasses, or they may have headaches, or they may have joint pain, or they may have heart problems. And that's why they're starting the patches. But their body knows and understands that there's a priority maybe somewhere else in the body that needs, they may need to go to their lungs first, or their pancreas, or their stomach, or their kidneys, and it's going to go work on that. And you may not feel that taking place. And so 1 month, 2 months, 3 months go by, and I said 97% of people see an effect by 90 days, but it might not be the effect you're looking for.
Mm,
People have a tendency to say it's not working if they don't see the result they are looking for, right?
exactly.
And just an example, again, one of my mom's friends who's 85, this gentleman was wearing, he had headaches, and he was wearing the patches because he wanted these headaches to go away. And after 2 months, his headaches were still there, but he neglected to tell my mom, because she found out from his wife that he was no longer needing his reading glasses. So when we don't pay attention, we're not focused on that. And so it's what I tell people. Again, we have like tracking sheets, so it can kind of jog people's memories as to things that might be going on in the body, or even things that we don't consider a problem. And I'll give an example for myself. Things that we live with, we've been so accustomed to that we don't think it's a health challenge, or it's not bothering us. I was a swimmer when I was younger, and I walked around pools a lot, got athlete's foot like as a teenager. And it went into my toenails, and I tried for years on and off oral antifungals, topical antifungals, nothing worked. And so I just gave up and resigned myself to having really not pleasant, not nice looking toenails. So I'd cut them really short. But they don't interfere with my living. And I just didn't even think about that. And it was a few weeks ago, I was putting on my sock because I work out regularly, and my nail got caught, and I took it off because I was going to go see where I should cut it. And I started looking at my toenails, and they're 60% cleared up.
Wow.
So, my gums that they've been watching for potentially doing gum grafts, which I really, really, really didn't want.
Mm,
Not only are they not receding anymore, they're actually growing back, right? So we don't think of that as, oh, I'm unhealthy, right?
right.
Not just about health either. If you want to take your like reversing disease or symptoms, it's about taking your health to the next level. Like there's Olympic athletes and professional sports players that use these patches to enhance
Absolutely.
that extra edge.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's not just for old people who, yeah, it's not just for old people and people who are decimated by disease. Really, it's about supporting all of us and being proactive. But people have to come to that in their own place and their own decision. But we're just supplying some information here that says, yes, this is an incredible opportunity and a viable option to reverse aging so that you can live as long as you can live as in as healthy a state as possible.
For quality of life, right? Because that's one of the things that I would see in the hospital is we are sometimes extending people's lives, but the quality is not there. So, when you think, I know my mom has said several times, like if she's pointed people, if I ever get to that position in that situation, she's like, I don't want to be alive anymore. I want my faculties. I want to have that quality of life. And I just wanted to touch on one more thing that has been really impactful for me. So the science, when I was learning, everything was so sound. So I started sharing with people around me, especially after seeing with my mom what was going on. And so many people they're not getting the results that they want from the allopathic traditional medical system or even alternative. And I started sharing and seeing unbelievable miracles around me. But also because of what's happened in the last 5 years, people who got sick in 2020 with whatever we want to call that, who have lingering effects for years. This one lady, friend of mine, his mom, for 3 years was almost incapacitated, basically, had no energy, like couldn't even cook. She didn't have the energy to even cook. That is within 3 months of using these patches, that is virtually gone. And people who have taken the experimental shots in 2021 that came around, a lot of people did not want to take it, but felt forced to. And there's been all sorts of ramifications and harms that have been done to so many people. And I know two people personally close to me who were really devastatingly injured, who have been using the patches and are not only have gotten better, they are feeling even better than they were before they even got the shots.
Amazing. So we can't make any promises. And returning to your statement, everybody is different. Every body is different, and every individual is different. So the patches are going to work in different ways at different timings for different people. But never doubt that they're actually working if you wear them consistently. They are doing their work at the cellular level.
And I would say that these patches do work for everybody, except if you're missing the substances, it's just a matter of when, right? So you have to have the patience to let them do the work.
Amazing. And what are some, you've talked about a few, but what are some other frequently asked questions or common misconceptions?
So one of the things that I love to share with people is this is a tool for to help with your health. Does not replace a healthy lifestyle, right? So it doesn't mean you can go eat junk food, you can not exercise, you can sit around and be a sloth and miraculously things are going to change, right? So it's the way I like to see it is it gives that impetus for people because people do see significant change, that impetus to say, okay, now I'm going in the right direction, because people struggle with lifestyle changes. Like, let's be honest, it's really
Yeah.
change your lifestyle. But when you start to see changes, it gives you the motivation to then make more changes and sustain those changes. Diet, change in nutrition, exercise, getting out and getting the light. And let me see now that so it's the lifestyle. And so one of the other things that we get a lot is, how is it different from a red light panel? And so that was for me at the beginning, I just assumed it was kind of similar, but it's not, because a red light panel, you have to make sure, first of all, that you're getting the high quality ones, but they usually only consist of 4 frequencies of light, 2 in the red range and 2 in the infrared range, right? And so those aren't necessarily having any effects on those master cells that we're talking about, increasing that copper peptide and increasing and changing and resetting the genes. So they are quite different. But the patches also increase mitochondrial efficiency, energy production. So the patches also do, in a sense, what the red light panel does. The red light's more focused depending on the size of it and the energy output and so on. The other question that I get a lot is, well, if it's using our own light, why can't we just go outside, and why don't we just get that same benefit from the light outside? Why do we have to use this tool? So what I say to that is, again, great question. If our world was like how it was eons ago, and we lived outdoors under natural lighting 24/7, we were connected with the earth 24/7. Now we're disconnected by being in the homes, by having shoes on, by having clothes on. We're not getting the outdoor natural light. If we didn't have air and the atmosphere that was full of electromagnetic frequencies that are not normal, that are not native to how we run our bodies, that are full of man-made stuff, it's confusing the signals to our body. Our body doesn't understand what's going on. It's receiving different messages than it's used to. We wouldn't have to use these things, right? We would be getting the correct signals. We'd be living in the environment that our body's adapted to. And, there are lots of stories that we hear of that people say are made up, but there are tribes that are still indigenous and living, closer to the earth and how we have evolved, that live to 150 years old, right? We hear about Noah having lived to 500 years old. There's toxins in our air, in our water, in our food, all around us. We're bombarded by things that are not normal. So unfortunately, however you want to look at it, we need something to support us in this modern world.
I totally believe that. And I know I'm experiencing many differences myself, as is my wonderful beloved Bill. Like, just it's changing our lives. And some things are going slower than I might want. Like, really, I'm doing deep work, but I'm trusting that it's working at the cellular level, at the mitochondrial level. And I know that things are changing. My outer world is reflecting what's going on in my inner world. One other question about this: how do the LifeWave patches compare to some? There are a couple of other patch technologies that exist.
Right. So this is a patented technology. And so what I've learned about patents is they have to actually do what they claim they do in order to get the patent. So it's a patented technology. There is nothing else like it on the market. There are other patches, nothing else like this. There's nothing else that activates and reactivates these master cells. I've looked into those other patches because I've heard about them, because I've heard people say, oh yeah, I know about the patches. I'm on the patches. And I say, which patches? And there are a few. They don't work the same way. And I've still, to this day, with all the research I've been doing on those, have not understood, because it's not been explained exactly how they work. They give a general explanation, but they really don't explain scientifically, which is where my mind wants to go, how they work. So, and the other thing is, one of them at least is they're really big and cumbersome. And this is a very important point too, and a question that I get asked: when you take them off, those other ones, whatever you were experiencing comes back. So it's important to note that with these patches, the X39 patches, everything that happens is not like a medication. So when you have high blood pressure, you take medication, your blood pressure gets lowered, and then you stop the medication, your blood pressure goes back up again. This is assisting and supporting your body's own regenerative capabilities. And so your body is regenerating. So when you stop the patches, things are not going to go back to what they were before you started them. All of the healing that's taken place is there, but you just start to do the aging process again from where before you started them. So all the things that have happened while you're on the patches are going to stay. They're not going to suddenly disappear.
You get to keep the benefits and the healing. If you've had experienced a healing, yeah, it's not going to regress, but your aging will continue when you stop using the patches. Exactly. And some people, if they're wearing multiple patches, I know your team focuses mostly on the X39 patch, but if they're doing other patches, I like to say, if something's working, why would you stop? And you brush your teeth every day, you shower every day, we take care of our bodies, we eat our food every day. If this is a maintenance thing and it's producing phenomenal results, why would you stop? You don't necessarily have to wear all the patches every day, but there are certain ones for maintenance that you don't want to live without.
And if I can address one more thing.
Yes.
On that note, and a friend of mine sent me a quote today because I commented on one of her posts, and she said, oh, I love the Jim Rohn quote. If it's a priority, you'll find a way to, whether it's financial, time, or whatever. If it is not a priority, you'll find an excuse. And one of the things, especially in Canada, because we're in Canada, is our Canadian dollar is not very good compared to the American dollar. And this is an American company. And so the cost for some people, I mean, really, it's not costly. If you go out for dinner once a month, that pays for the patches for the month, right? So if you don't go out for dinner once a month, like you don't do that. But I also look at it as an investment, right? It's not a cost. Your health really, to me, is at the top of the list for priorities, because if you don't have, you can have a million problems in your life until you have a health problem, then you have one problem, and that's your health, right? Everything focuses on the health when your health deteriorates. So you need your health for everything else that you have in your life.
Absolutely. And to follow on to that, many people invest in things like supplements, and that's a good thing. It can be great, but sometimes people have supplements in their cupboard that A, they're not taking, or B, that they are, but they're not necessarily getting the results they want. With the patches, I've found, and others have experienced, you can reduce some of those supplements that you're taking because your body's doing what it's supposed to do, and you don't have to take those ingested substances. And so over time, you can wean yourself off of those, and that too pays for this investment in your health. And you can reduce medications, of course, with your doctor and your healthcare provider's assistance. And if we look at it in that context, like you're talking about, it just makes sense. And yes, I know we're in a certain state with the US dollar versus the Canadian dollar for sure. And just to also let people know, because we're in Canada, for those of you who are Canadians, we don't get our products from the US. We get our products from Ireland, where they are made in this amazing facility, and they are shipped to a warehouse in Ontario. So we don't have to pay any extraneous tariffs. Yes, we have the Canadian versus American dollar, but don't worry about that piece of it. So Rachel, I'd love for you to end off, unless you have anything else you want to say. Please restate that Jim Rohn quote, because that is a perfect way to end this.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier, but if it's a priority in your life, you will find a way, either time or money. I can't remember exactly what he said, but you will find a way to make it work. If it's not a priority, you will find an excuse.
There you have it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here, Rachel. So appreciate your time and expertise on all of this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
And we're doing this because you matter.